Hi everybody, welcome back. Tony again here with Shinsho Yoga. And for this video I'd like to talk about balancing our thoughts and our feelings, because both are important. In our world today, it seems to be, people seem to embrace one or the other. There is a lot of black and white that we have in our world today, and generally in everything. There seems to be very little middle ground in what goes on. And all of us can fall into the same trap, even though we want to try to maintain mindfulness or often want to believe, no, we don't do that or we don't do this. We can all fall into it. And learning to balance our thoughts and our feelings is extremely important to contributing to society and reaching that kind of enlightened being state, right? To use those terms. Both are important. You were never equipped by the universe with things you don't need. Whatever you have and how you are is important. It's learning to use those tools. The universe is going to give you tools when you're born to do things, and you have to learn how to use those tools. We may look at other people and say, this person has that tool. If I only had that, I could do this. Or that person has this, and if I had that, I could do this. But that's not what you were given. And you were given your tools to use them to the best of your ability for your purpose, right, that you have. Learning your purpose is very important, but even just learning to balance them, right? Feelings are very important, and then that's where our intuition lies, right? It's going to be in this area in our body. As I always tell people, what do you feel here? Or ask them, I say, they're talking about something. I say, what does it do here? Your intuition lies with how you feel. Right? The problem is feelings are very easily fed and can grow to a point where they now cloud that intuition, cloud what's going on, and can rule everything that you do to the point of unhealthiness. Just like anything that we do, right? If you are a person who likes to drink, obviously you can have some drinks which aren't going to be necessarily unhealthy, at least for most. But if you have too much, it's going to be unhealthy. Same thing with even, health, going to the gym, right? You go to the gym or exercise. You go to exercise, you want to do a certain amount of exercise regularly, stressing the body, working the body. But if you do too much, you will hurt the body. The same thing goes with our feelings. Our feelings have to be balanced with our thoughts, right? But the same applies to our thoughts. Many people I know go down thought rabbit holes, overthinking all the time. It seems to be, for lack of a better term, an epidemic in our society. People overthink things, right? They get one little nugget of information and it gets blown into this huge thing, and they go down this rabbit hole and nothing ever gets done. They'll ignore their intuition and just constantly think about it. And stew themselves into a worry and a sickness where they're starting to feel things, right? They're starting to feel sick. They're feeling worried because they've thought about it so much, right? And again, there seems to be, it's either one or the other, a black or a white, a left or a right, or up or a down. In Buddhism, we look to balance that, right? Everything in Buddhism is a middle way. You want to balance your thoughts and your feelings. You need your thoughts to be able logically to think things out, right? Because many problems are going to require a logical, practical solution. But in the process of doing that, there's going to be plenty of times that the feelings need to be brought in. That a logical answer is not presenting itself here. The answer is not presenting itself with thought. So what do? We have to rely on our intuition. We have to rely on our feelings to guide us. And the two of these need to walk hand in hand. Right? We don't want to weigh them out one side or we go, okay, I'm going to think about this. No, I'm going to feel this out completely and go like this. We want them to go hand in hand, the thought and the feeling. We think about something, trying to figure out an issue, what we should do, can't really get an answer. Well, what do I feel about it, right? How does the feeling, what does my intuition say? What does it do right here, right? We want to balance this and this. I always talk about with students, telling them when they're working things out like this, I give them a visual of this, right? From here to here, right? The two of these, right? We're working to balance that two when we're trying to figure out what to do. If we purely go on feeling, we'll often overreact to things, right? React inappropriately or outside of what the actual scope of what's going on. So instead of just reacting, if we take time to think about it and respond to it, we can temper that, right? Same thing with thought, right? If we don't include the feelings in what's going on, we think about things and we start going down these rabbit holes of thought and doing mental gymnastics, coming to an answer that is nowhere near what this issue or problem that you had was, but you've just thought about it so much you created this whole world. Where if we had balanced our feelings in that and said, what am I thinking about here, right? Is this right? Does this fit? Does this make sense? And you could get, this does, but that doesn't. Balancing thought and balancing feeling. Using our mind and using our intuition. We look to do both, right? As always, how do we do that, right? That's the challenge. It comes to the same answer every time. That's where meditation comes in. That's where our breath work comes in, right? Formal meditative practice, as I always support and tell you should do, right? To have a formal, disciplined meditative practice where we're just sitting and breathing and watching our thoughts and letting the thoughts arise and letting them pass by and returning to the breath. This is how we gain control, learning to watch our thoughts, right, in our meditative practice. I'm not saying necessarily as you're driving down the road, you need to pay attention to the road, but just watching the thoughts and not allowing them to control us, not allowing the strong emotions and thoughts we have to control us, right? As I teach in my classes, that often if we have thoughts of the future, we're pulled into anxiety. If we have thoughts of the past, we'll be pulled into depression, right? The thought then is triggering this feeling, right? So we look to balance those two, and we use that meditative practice. We use that breath. The breath becomes the anchor, that coming back to that center, right? As we're starting to be pulled in one direction, as the thoughts start to wander in another direction. And we have to practice this over time. It's not going to happen once. As I always say, it's not an aspirin. You don't do it once and bang, your problems are solved. It has to be a regular part of your life and your practice. It has to become something that you just do. That when you are hit with a problem, right, we breathe and we see if we can come up with our solution at that point. If not, I need to take some time with this to come up with it. Instead of just defaulting to reacting or digging deep into the thoughts. We want to balance those two, right? So that meditative practice, that breath work, that is going to be the solution to that. And over time, as we learn to do those practices and we learn to breathe and follow our breath, as we learn to just be observant with what goes on, that'll carry off of our mat, off of our cushion, into our regular life. So situations that would have come up before and maybe had you, meet it that way, right? Instead, I'm going to change how I do that today in order to get a different response, a different outcome. If you want to change your life, you have to change that approach. You have to change how you are living it. If you're doing the same thing over and over, you're just going to get the same result. Right? The lesson will be repeated until it is learned. So learning those to balance the thoughts and the feelings. So we're not weighted in one area more than another. We balance the two. Right? It's going to lead you to a more successful, more peaceful life. Right? In order to do that, we have to have that practice. Right? So our yoga practice, our meditation practice, the most important things that we can do, so we carry that over into our daily life. So that's my thought for this video. As always, take from that what serves you, get rid of the rest. but don't take what's comfortable and leave what's uncomfortable, because we often need what is uncomfortable to serve us. Thanks again for watching. Namaste.